Welcome everybody to this wonderful Fireside Chat with Makila Nsika, who's known professionally as MKALA. Makila is a Congolese-born, London-based jewelry designer whose work intricately weaves together African heritage, ethical craftsmanship, and contemporary design. Her journey from a literature scholar to an award-winning designer is marked by her deep commitment to storytelling through materials and form. So welcome, Makila. Thank you so much for giving us your time. I want to start by reminding you of our journey of knowing each other. When I was trying to calculate, I think it's been over 10 years since I first became aware of you. We were both still already in the African creative space. We were both diaspora women creating entities and brands that were celebrating African culture. At the time, you had another brand called Biloko, and I was running my first business, which was Sapele, which was an African, a retail brand for African-inspired fashion and accessories. So at the time you told me your story, and it stayed in my heart because you're a woman after my own heart. You were already talking about sustainability at that point, at a time when not many designers were doing that. And right now, many years later, you are here. So maybe let's start from before we met. Let's start from the stories you told me 10 years ago about your journey into jewelry design.
And you mean from literature to jewelry design?
Correct, yes.
Well, like you said, yes, I studied literature, French and African literature, younger, and I became a French teacher. And then I was born in Congo and I grew up there, so my childhood is there. And then when I arrived in France, I was 12, and I studied literature there, and I was going back to Congo time to time to visit my dad. So I always have these very strong connections with my country.
Okay.
And in London, I became a mom and I stopped working, but I kept the connections with Congo, visiting it regularly. And what I've noticed, and through conversation with friends, with artist friends as well there, it was that our craft was disappearing, and we had less and less of all those artifacts that I used to see around me when I was a child. And talking especially with one of these friends, it's a painter and sculptor, Etsion, Mongo Etsion. At the time, he used to take me around telling me about the symbols in his paintings. He was very well, how do you say, he had a lot of knowledge on plants, on symbols, on all the history of his own past and community. He was Teke. And it was impressive to me because my dad never shared all this knowledge with me about, where he comes from, and and traditional meanings, and everything I knew at the time was from books, was from literature. So a different type of knowledge. And with him, I just realized how much we were losing of, traditional knowledge, but also culture, symbols, religions, everything that really is important about our identity, about who we are, and how we relate to the world and the environments around us. So yes, that's how I started to be very interested into craft and to look at what was happening around me in Congo, and wanting to be involved. And but then at the same times, our traditional crafters are woodworkers, and we have these fantastic forests, Congo forest, with a lot of endangered trees. And through colonization and even today's exportations, we cut a lot of trees and they go out of our countries and they are endangered. And so it was difficult for me to find a way to say, like, okay, how I can participate helps, but also bring back meanings about what we're doing and why we're doing it. When I was thinking about it, I bumped into that kernels, the palm nut kernels, which is really like wood. It is a way, you find it everywhere on the street, and it was on the beach, so it was washed by the sun and the sea, and it was really dark and really hard. And I was like, oh my God, nobody's using this. What? And it's a hardwood. It looked beautiful and it looked strong enough to be worked with. Actually, sometimes maybe too strong. That was my problem.
Oh, really?
Yes, a lot of to cut that nut, that kernel, and to sand it. Yes, it's work intensive. But anyway, that's how it started. I've just from that and from meeting artisans, I slowly tested it. And that's when you met me. I was, doing my first trials about, yes, because it's small jewelry made sense. So I was like, okay, let's see how the artisans can use it instead of wood, and if we can make a product that is easily transportable from Africa to Europe. I was thinking, yes, of exporting because the market with money, unfortunately, isn't. It's outside, so you need this to be transportable, and so it all makes sense at the time for me to work with that materials. It makes sense in terms of environment, sustainability. It was a food waste, but it was and we don't have intensive farming, so it was still small farming, and it is still small farming. So yes, it all makes sense, and that's how it started. Sorry, I spoke for a long time.
No, it's a fascinating story. I think I don't know whether it's because of the language barrier. Obviously, DR Congo is a francophone country, and
I'm not from DR Congo.
oh, you
I'm
are from Congo, Brazza. My bad. Congo Brazzaville, which also is
compared to DRC.
sorry.
You're very small.
Oh, you're very small compared to DRC.
Yes.
So we don't know. This is an opportunity for us to learn a little bit more about the artisan scene. I'm just curious to know what you've. Of course, you found that there was sort of a use of endangered materials, and you were introducing something new. But what does the artisanal sector or the artisanal space look like? What do artisans traditionally make? Who were you then working with, and how were you able to collaborate with them, with bringing your concepts into fruition, into an actual tangible product?
So traditionally, mainly our artisans' work are wood sculptures and beautiful, of course, sculptures. I mean, before it was mask, but also, how do you say, statue, les petites statuettes, figurines, like you see in many parts of Africa, and but beautiful furniture as well, sculpted in hardwood. So from we have I'm not sure of all the names in English, but of course there's ebony, there's looking very strong wood. We have the red wood as well, and we have lots of beautiful furniture sculpted, made out of those species. And
so here you are, you want to start making tiny pieces of jewelry. How, how did you
like,
break through?
so that's why it's been a very, very long process, and we're still, I'm still working on that with them. And I had to make choices. So, well, first I was bringing in that little kernels. I have some here. I'm in my studio. They're very tiny, and they're really hard. So, I mean, they were not unfamiliar with it because traditionally it's used like as bead, like you use seeds to make beads, just to make big necklaces. Just send them and just use it like that. But I was asking to slice them, to cut them, to shape them, and they have huge machine, and by hands it was very complicated. So there's a lot that needed to be adapted, and then the sanding process as well on those small pieces takes a long time. So just doing this and doing that to with Biloko, I was not being very precise because I was just trying, and if they were slicing it and shaping it, that was enough for me, and I was doing a lot of the sanding and the finish myself. But now I'm trying to do is I found a workshop, so that I'm asking them to go further, because we know now how to cut, and they've been really able to be much more precise when I'm asking for a slice to be 2 millimeters. It can't be 4 millimeters because we are in Europe. And that's very complicated when you don't have the tools, when you don't have. And I still can't ask them, for example, to do a whole of millimeter in the kernels, because finding a drill of 1 millimeter is very difficult. I was in Pointe Noire going around town trying to find the drill for them. I had not bringing it, and I couldn't understand why the hole was smaller on one side and bigger. And then he showed me it because he had made the tool himself, and it was pointy. So they're really brilliant at adapting the tools when request.
Yes.
But they don't communicate with me their limits. They say yes to me. And then until I come and I say, oh no, there is an issue. This is not how I ask this to be. So until I travel there, I am with them, and I see, oh, this is why. Why didn't you tell me? Then I would have, adapt my designs. I would have, work around, and we would not have lost all this time. But still, not used to work like that.
That's such a big lesson. That is a lesson for both sides.
Yes, so we both, it's a learning process. It takes time. So what I know they can do now, so I'm asking them to do. And slowly, it's about slowly bringing in more requests, but slowly. Once it's really well mastered, we know we have the tools, we know how to make it, we know that it will be easy, it will not be a pain, then okay, we go with that element in my design. But eventually, my ambitions is to use more and more handcrafted. So at the moment, to compensate that, I don't want to use that gap in between them making, just slicing, making shapes, making holes, trying to be precise, to move to really finely handcrafted pieces.
Yeah.
So covering the gap with my design and technical approach
Yeah.
on designing, how do you say, modern technology.
Yeah. So how long did it take you to find your production partners, and how long have you been working with them?
So the workshop I'm working with at the moment, it's been 2 years since the beginning of my master.
Mm.
Before Loco, I was working with some, but communication was really not working well, and it was very complicated for me in terms of quality controls. I had been, I think, patient, but again, you're learning on the ground, going back there, asking, and then you think something has been well explained, understood, and they've done it once well. So back in London, you try to do an order from
Yes.
London without being there,
Yes.
and receive the order, which is a big cost to have
Yeah.
a quantity of things sent to you from so far away, when there's no that's a problem of my little country. There's no huge company doing a direct transport from there to London, and opening the box, and it's just like, oh my god.
I know
What
that
is
feeling. You're re-traumatizing me. I know that trauma.
I and you get angry, and you just like, but what has happened? I thought we done it together, it was fine. They know that it's time consuming. I know it's time consuming for them, and it's time
Yeah.
consuming for me, and it's a lot of money involved. But so then if you can't establish that trust,
Yeah.
then this is one of the reasons as well, when at one point I was like, okay, this is not working, I have to rethink and stop. And communication, design, and just find ways to work. But I was stubborn, and I
Yeah.
think you have to be stubborn, and you have to be passionate to continue to do it. So when I decided to do the master in design, so I could understand, because I'm not trained in design, I taught myself jewelry while I was working with the artisans, and I had some, I was in Sicily as well, part-time training in jewelry. So I can explain exactly in terms of quality and technique what I was expecting from the artisan. But then I realized that I have to push further, because what I achieved with Biloco was okay, but the problem was cost and prices.
Mm.
It was very
Yeah.
expensive to
Okay,
go to.
okay. Before you even go there, that's a whole different fireside chat. But we're gonna
Very,
try and squeeze it
very,
into here. But I really just wanted to take a minute to underline what you said, because I think a lot of people, a lot of us within this creative space, whether it's here in Africa, on the continent, or in the diaspora, we get to that crossroads where we say, this is too hard. This is extremely difficult. There are other options out there. Either I could quit and get a day job, or I could source from somewhere else. I remember at one point having a conversation with partners on my business to say, let's just source from India. And I was like you, I think that trait of stubbornness, of saying, no, we're going to keep digging away at this. But there must be, behind that stubbornness, there must be something else that drives it, because behind stubbornness lies a belief that what you're doing is right. But what was the fire that was stoking your stubbornness? What drove you to keep trying?
well, I think it's how I arrive at doing it. I like what I'm doing. I'm quite passionate about design, and I find it very, how do you say, fulfilling. But I think I'm more of a project person, and I think that's what I said to my teacher at the master when asking me to think as a designer, and I was saying like, yes, but I'm more of a project managing person. So when I arrived at doing this, what was important for me was not really to make that object.
Mm-hmm.
It was the whole process, and it was why I was doing it. So the why is what drives me, is not the what and the end thing. So yes, it's easier to how do you say, to buy from different places, but then there's no more reason for me to do it because other people can do it and doing it. So why am I there? There's no more reason for me to be there. So I think that's what drives me. It's my commitment to Congo in particular, and to the artisans, and to our space, and to like the literature. When I was interested, it's all our history, our culture, and that's why I'm doing this. Very personal.
Yes, it has to be. It has to be. Otherwise, why get up in the morning to do this? So you talked about the difficulty, the expense of sourcing. Just it must be very difficult. I think coming from Congo, as you say, it's not a market that typically, like other, let's say, more developed markets in Africa that are more experienced at exporting, like let's say Egypt or South Africa. What kind of challenges did you face, and how are you overcoming them?
The challenges are many. So practically, if we're not talking about the training of the artisans, well, no, I should talk about it, because the first issue I have in Congo is that they're not trained in a sense that we don't have. In Kinshasa, there's a school, there's the art schools, and there's the craft schools. In Congo, you don't really have one. There's one for painting. So a lot of painters. But in terms of craft, I have of our sculptor, wood sculpture and artisans. It's really through the family, or someone would just find a master, like, almost like a guild, but not as formal. So the issue I have is the standards. There's no standard of quality. It's across. So I'm working with a workshop, and I'm really happy to have found that workshop in Pointe-Noire, where there is a master in the workshop, and there's other people working in it. But there's one person that would go and communicate what I need to the others. So I won't have a variation in depending on who's done the work, on the quality of what I receive back. So the other issue for me is transport and is export. I have a lot of little taxes to pay. The nuts, the kernels is a food waste, but because it's touched by artisans' hands, I need to have a paper, and I need to pay at the ministry, the Ministry for Craft and Artisanry. Sorry, I don't know how we call it in English, but
yes,
I need to pay a tax there before being able to transport it. And before, I forgot the name of this big company that transports, that could take packages. At the time of Loco, I could use them, but now they stopped taking anything that is crafted. And I don't really know why, but but at the time I remember that they had refused to send one of my package because I was using some metal as well, that was just brass, but they refused to send it because thought, and I have no idea why they could think that it was gold.
Okay.
So there's a lot of I
Okay.
imagine gold in the area, and so those people in the office could not test whether it was gold or something else. So they just like freeze and got paralyzed about this. So there's all these little issues about transport, craft, and that's one of the other reasons I can't touch precious metals around, because I would love to also work with precious metal from there, but it's too complicated. And I've visited as well some how do you say, pawning in the forest where they get gold.
Okay.
It's very complicated for me to get involved because it's not so much the fact that the whole family children are working in the river, but it's like I don't know what products they use, the pollution, health issues, and there's a lot of traffic around, so it's very complex.
Goodness me.
So that's the main thing. So and all of that, of course, influence my costs. It's very high. So the moment I can't still just work on that full time. I'm still teaching on the side. So
okay.
And because of the cost, it cannot be sold at a competitive price. And this is why I had taken the decisions to go to do this design master, because I understood that the only way to make such a business viable is to be different, is to be able to sell at a high price. It was the only way was to have it as a luxury product, basically. And to have it as a luxury product, because I can't do quantity, because my costs were high. I needed to push the design. I needed to make sure the quality and the artisans behind understood properly the situation.
Yeah. So, okay, we have, I would say that, so we work with jewelry brands across the continent. And I think it's safe to say that a lot of them face this problem. They have high costs of production because we don't have the critical mass. However, they also cannot work with high value materials. So they're kind of stuck in this middle space where they have to make it viable for them financially, but then also they can't really compete against gold or other semi-precious materials inputs into the jewelry products. And we have this debate quite a lot. I have conversations around, do you price at a higher level and risk nobody buying your products? Because at the end of the day, we are a business to business wholesale marketplace. So the buyers who come onto our platform also have to add their markup and make it viable for them. But unlike us, they have options. They can actually just decide, well, I'm going to source from somewhere else and buy products that I know I can turn it around, make my margin, and we're good. So how have you been able to, obviously there's a strong element of design and differentiation. I'd invite everybody to take a look at your collections, your current collection, which is out. There was Sands and Fire, and you had your other collection, which is called Palms, the Palms collection, which is just stunning. It's the one that you've won awards for. But what would you tell jewelry designers who find themselves in this predicament of, high costs, but then also a ceiling on their price potential?
Well, first, I need to be honest. I am a new starter, so I still need to really taste the water. Because I finished the master and I'm still developing the collections to find that sweet. How do you say in English? That sweet
Spot. The
spot.
sweet spot, yeah.
and I have resisted compromise, but I am slowly going towards those compromise. But I have learned that, and I've been told many times, because the good thing about doing this master in Central Saint Martins, and to have to have met people doing to a high level and to high prices in a very very high-end market, and to spoke with advisors, business advisors, they have all told me, don't be scared about the price.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first things, and I was even shocked when not long after my jewelry are in a shop in Putney, so the kind of market I am taught, and it is a slice of palm nuts with silver plated gold, and they sold it for £700.
Wow.
£1,000, and I was myself shocked, just out of uni and still not developing my collection. There were still prototypes, and when they told me, "Oh, we sold it," I was like, "So it is possible." So it's really a question of really targeting the market, really find the difference, really having this narrative, not to be scared to put the price where it should be. And but understanding also the market, knowing what will sell, where and why. So that's part of design, and I'm still developing this, because also it's fine to sell it. I sold, so I know it's possible, but I need to sell more often in order to have a viable how can I say that? I want to work regularly with and the workshop in Congo. I don't want to be like come like just once a year, like hello.
Yes.
Need to be more regular, so I need to have, so they can develop, so I can continue to develop the projects and push them to, because that's my aim. I want to push them to work towards quality and to make more and more beautiful things, and gives them that confidence that they can.
And you were talking about how you're still researching the market because you want a steady flow of work. You want to be able to make a sustainable business out of this.
Yeah, so these pieces I designed through the masters really were showcasing my material, the palm nuts. And now that I've got those pieces, I need to develop collections of smaller items that can be picked and used by anyone who has, of course, the money and used. So mainly little earrings and pendants, so little items like this. The issue I have, it's about, yes, so the price. So to sell enough at a nice price and to stay in this high market, I need to use, that's where the compromise comes. I understand that I need to use more precious materials. So when I started as a master, the gold was not at the price it is now. Now it's just very scary.
Oh.
Yeah, the price of gold has doubled since I've started the master. So in 3 years, it's just ridiculous what has happened. And before that, he had already at the moment, he's at above £70 the gram. So it's just really, really expensive. So that is so it forced me to take a step back, because in my design the plan was to use gold, and now I'm like, okay, I don't have the capital fund to use gold any longer. So now I'm forced to think about stones, which I really didn't want to touch. I mean, you have loads, you have big mining companies, but yes, the mining issues around stones are problematic for me, coming from the Congo area.
Yes, yeah.
So, but in order to reach that sweet, I might need to bring in a little bit of this, a little bit of stones. So there's still the problem of then outsourcing the stones. So yeah, so that's my reflection at the moment. So I can bring in, a little collections that would price quite high, but that would have the element in terms of value that would reassure the customer.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm not. It would be beautifully designed, of course, and it would be a beautiful piece at a certain price. I need to reassure the customer to say, "Oh, okay, I'm investing in this piece."
Exactly.
Would it keep with me in times? So the idea of investment, I think, is very important in jewelry and in the mind of the customer. I mean, the European customer, I know it's possible.
And I know from experience, because we used to do a lot of these, but I know that you've done hundreds of touch points with customers through craft fairs and all of these events that are very popular around London. What big lessons did you learn in having those conversations with the public, that you've used in your own journey, but also that you can share with the people listening to this conversation today?
It was very important for me to do that. So with Biloko, I've learned a lot about, well, first, that gave me the will to continue, because I always had very positive feedback. People really love the pieces, and they really love the pieces. And I remember when we were together in South Bank, I was slowly pushing my pricing up each time. I remember I had reached like the 50-70 pounds at the time, and I was like, oh my God, thing when I'm looking back. And I was selling, and people were buying, and and he also taught me who was buying and who was not buying, because when I was in markets like around borough markets, then I was not really selling. And at a certain price anyway, and I could see that the stall next to me, there was a lot of tourists and buying things for £5, but then after a certain prices, yes, my customers were not into the lambda tourist person. But being at South Bank, where people are more like into art, design, these kind of things, so change a lot. And then yes, it was much easier, and I was selling. I even had to take off earrings I was wearing. I remember really the one I was, and nothing else. And I was like, but they're not finished. They have problems. And they're like, no, give me your price. I'm taking them.
Oh, wow. Yes.
But I had very enthusiastic response from that public. And that pushed me to say, okay, into the master, that it can work, but if I want to push my price higher, I need to understand, yes, this word of design, art, and how do you push your narrative, and how do you talk about design, and just so you push. And I think that's what is missing a lot on our continents, our artisans. Well, first, they don't, I mean, in my country, they don't have the training about their craft, apart getting it from their dad or uncle, or and without any checkpoint for quality and standard. And then the other really don't have, and that is really missing, is thinking about design. But I suppose to think about design, you need to have a market, and that's an issue.
Yes.
In my country, we don't have a market to think of. And
How
the only
can
market,
you-
the one or two expats that might come and everybody's fighting for. It's very sad, and that's
so important, because how do you do market research for a market that you've never had a conversation with, really?
exactly.
And I think I think there's nothing that can equally substitute it, but perhaps that's where relying on other people to do that job is important. So it's about researching your potential retailers, your potential stockists, because understanding who to be speaking to, who can represent you in the best light possible, people who are in the spaces that hold your target customers, your end customers. That's important. And it's also about positioning, about, do I put my products on XYZ platform? Is that really the best price point? Are other products that are in a similar price point, are they there? Or do I find where they go and position myself alongside those? And so the positioning isn't just about the price point itself, but it's even about where you place, where you actually put your products in this whole digital landscape as well. But and the second piece that you mentioned that I think resonates is where you talk about investment, because jewelry comes at all prices. You can get a plastic bracelet for $1, but if you are pushing your prices beyond a certain point, there needs to be a locking in where you're saying, I'm giving you this as an investment. I'm offering you this product as an investment. And then it's about understanding if that's how you want your customer to see your piece, is it really? Like, does it tick all the boxes of an investment piece? If it's trendy, too trend forward, will it withstand time? Will the customer see it as an investment that they can wear, an investment they can pass on to their loved ones, and et cetera, et cetera? Are we creating products that tick those boxes of investment?
Well, there's two ways to look at it. There's a timeless piece that is not trendy, but work into a kind of ritual. Like you said, you transfer your jewelry to your children's, or it's your wedding band, or it's a sign of belonging with a ring. So there's this, and I don't think I can be in that market. Because this kind of jewelry, it's very particular and doesn't really much give space for new materials, because the material is very set, is very traditional. If it's not my gold ring with my little diamonds and my thing, So it would be very difficult for me to find a space in that. What I'm hoping, once my collections are really set, then I could customers can come to me to have some commissions within my collections, to have their own things, and like that it becomes their piece and very special that they can give.
Yeah.
But there is another way to think about it, about jewelry. It's more of which is bigger in Europe and in in the States, it's a more of the unique piece, the arty or the design piece, which is not necessarily a trend piece, but is more a mark of the designer. So I don't want to be an artist, but I want to be in between those. This is where I think I can go as a designer, making very different pieces, but with quality, but that would resist time. And you can pass on, but you pass on not because it's a ritual piece, but because it is also an investment, because it's a particular piece that would last in time and with some of the materials that reassure the customer in terms of.
Yeah. So to what extent are stories and themes a part of the value of your products at that price point, or within that space?
Within that space, the story is very important because it's all about the design. Just like art, it's the expressions and the values that the piece carries. So the narrative has to be quite strong.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily need to be forefront because a piece always needs to speak for itself. Once a piece is seen, it needs to carry a lot. Even if it's not obvious, it needs to carry a lot by itself. But usually at this price point, a customer will want to know more. So you need to be able to give the whole package, the whole story with all its colors and like a beautiful box, basically. If you don't have the beautiful box for the little ring, if we talk about engagement ring, your engagement ring might just be anything if it doesn't come in a beautiful box. So the story for me is that it's that fantastic that you give to the customer with the piece.
Yeah. And for you specifically, is your story more about, or is it you, the person, and your journey, or is it how you relate to your culture, or is it about sustainability? Is it about the culture as it stands alone, Congo?
I can't separate any of that. It's impossible to separate any of this. Because it's about me, then it's about Congo, and because it's about Congo, it's about his history, and his history carries so many things, and our environment, our history, our crafters, everything, it comes together. And I think this is why I'm trying in my design and the way I want to think about my design, even though I have to make some compromise. It is a full circle. I don't want to use this word because it's not really what I'm doing, like ontological designs where everything comes in. You take into account everything from the context, the people, culture, the environment, the issue, the problems, and designs comes into to understand this whole context, and from that context trying to find not a solution, because I'm not responding to problem. Oh yes, I am responding to problems. I see where the lack is, and with my design I want to propose something that could be, not necessarily is, but could be a way of thinking into I'm using big words, like into a better future.
A better future. Okay, it's like, what my next question is going to be. You've been on this continent working with artisans for such a long time. where do you see us going as a creative community, as a jewelry creating community, for example, the African craftsmanship?
It is a difficult question because it's tied to well, we talk about the market. So at the moment, I mean, it's difficult for me to generalize the continent because it's very in different countries. But in my part, the market is not there, and it doesn't look like it's going to come really near. So we're very dependent on the outside market.
Yeah.
To craft and to do beautiful pieces to a very high quality, a beautiful standard, requires money. That's always been the case. And the places where craft can develop, it's because there's money and there's investment into the crafters. Mm. So when we depend from money coming from outside, then we're in a strange position, and it's very difficult to read the future.
Yeah.
There's a diaspora, and I mean, there's all this discourse around the diaspora, as you know. So, I'm trying to be part of it. I am the diaspora, so I'm doing my bit.
Yes.
Other countries that seems to get to have to economically be how do you say, emerging, like Nigeria. I mean, you're in South Africa, and South Africa, it's a lighthouse for crafters.
Yes.
Gallery, like the Southern Gallery.
Oh yes. Oh my goodness.
Beautiful ceramic. Just like this is, I mean, I found inspiration from the craft coming out from South Africa. I dream to visit. And in Nigeria as well, I mean, in fashion, in some designers, what they do with traditional textiles and raffia, and working with natural dye. And that is because there's investments coming in, of course, from outside as well, but also from inside, from people in, because they have this money.
They have the
and educated, and these very wealthy, educated populations, even if they're not many, but they are there and they're investing.
Yes.
And that makes a difference to the social incomes. And you can see in all the country around the world through all history why, China, Europe had all these patrimoine, we say it in French, of beautiful buildings and paintings and craft, because they have very powerful, rich
benefactors
that was invested for their own how do you say, ego into craft and everything, and art depends on money. So yes, there's some very promises. There's some parts in Africa that are really promising, and we'll see where it goes. And hopefully they will continue to sustain their local crafters and the materials in a sustainable way, and won't get completely swollen by, like you say, easy way of just like outsourcing. Yeah. But I see happening. There's this kind of pride.
Yeah. I think that without knowing it, maybe you are a case study for others to follow, because you are a diaspora, and your contribution to the art heritage, or the artistic space in Congo, is your collaboration. So you didn't go there and buy anything, but you invested a lot in collaborating with artisans who, even if you move away, they have the skills that will never be taken away from them. So you are in a way contributing, and you're helping me make the point that the diaspora, creatives in the diaspora can also collaborate with creatives, and do some product development together and share skills as well as design, making skills, crafting skills, as well as design skills, merging those together and creating beautiful things, because your travels and your journey through life informs your products and the design of your products, but their journey also does as well. And I think that there's beauty in those two elements coming together and creating unique pieces. And so we shouldn't lose sight of how much of an impact you've had on this, with the people that you work with and have worked with over the years, and how others can emulate that example.
Yes, thank you. I'm hoping that it's a sustainable impact for them. And it was really proud when I went back to visit them in Pointe-Noire, and they're sending me pictures of how they organize their workshops, so they could really work through everything I'm asking for. They're really making efforts. And then him taking a picture of himself next to a stand saying like the specialist of palm nuts and craft, and I was like, oh, coming in slowly.
Yes, yeah.
And if there's more of them trying to figure out the palm nuts, it will become easier for me as well.
Yeah, yes, exactly. So you're breaking ground, you're smoothing the way for others. And on that note, I just want to ask you one last question. Like, what one word of wisdom, encouragement, could you share with the crafters within the jewelry space that you think might help them?
With the crafters, in one word is difficult, but well, resilience, and also being patient with people like me who come with demands and requests, and who don't necessarily really understand fully, even if we know that it's going to be difficult, but we don't have necessarily the whole knowledge about the working space they have and the obstacles, and how really it can, like when I was talking about tools. But yes, to be patient, and to be communicative. That was my main frustration. The communications, to always say, to not hesitate. It's about building trust and understanding. So they have to say, yes, it's possible. No, it's not possible. Yes, it's possible if you pay this amount of money. If I don't get that amount of money, I won't be able to do this, and this way. I would be maybe able to do just that, but that's it. Being very specific, very clear, and to communicate really openly. I think that was the main issue. It's like I had to dig. I had to dig a lot. And maybe because it was the culture, there was a French as well. Their French was not the same as my French, but it's also a kind of shyness.
Yeah.
Not opening up to their difficulty and their issue, and when they shouldn't. So really, they must open.
Lovely, wonderful. Makila, thank you so much for your time. I'd invite everybody to go and take a look at your collection. It's absolutely stunning. And I wish you the very best, and just to keep rising, for your start to keep rising. I think that you're an inspiration for many jewelry designers, let alone, jewelry designers of African heritage. But the way that you effortlessly tell your story and the way that you weave all of those elements into the jewelry pieces, I can understand why you've had the awards and the accolades that you have, and the response from the public. So I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much, Daphne, and I hope to see you again soon.
Yes, let's not make it 10 years next time.